Acting Premier and Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Moses Carcano, Chief Officer in the Ministry of Tourism, Mr. Strand Bodden, members of the media, civil servants, good afternoon. I'm pleased to welcome you to our second roundtable discussion on tourism-related matters. Our tourism team believes it's important to afford this intimate roundtable discussion on all things tourism in a way that provides deep understanding of our work and our industry. We have a cohesive team. This group includes all tourism-related departments and government companies. We're tasked with working together to deliver strategy, direction, services, and support to the Cayman Islands tourism industry. Today, we will update you on all categories and also provide you with new tourism information. Before we begin with the remarks from the Acting Premier, I would like to present a video compilation of the Cayman Islands accolades received from international media. These awards and acknowledgements position the Cayman Islands as the warm weather destination of choice. And it demonstrates that the Cayman Islands' global tourism strategy is hard at work to produce return on investment. These honors would not be possible without the efforts of the government, tourism partners, and their hardworking teams. Our islands have been afforded a strong commitment by our tourism partners to upgrade facilities and develop new product, thereby expanding our services and capacity. These tourism developments ensure that our visitors consistently experience a world-class service that the Cayman Islands offer each and every day. I now present the destination accolades. Thank you for watching the video. It is now my distinct pleasure to invite the Acting Premier and Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Moses Carcano, to bring forth his remarks.
Good afternoon, and thank everybody for coming. I'm extremely pleased this afternoon to be able to announce that our tourism arrivals for the first 6 months of this year are up by 5.4%. This destination had a total arrival of 210,490 air visitors for the first half 2016, and that did show a slight decline over last year, which was our highest ever. But our cruise arrivals are up 7% for the first half of the year, which cumulative, that puts us at a positive 5.4% for the first 6 months, which we are extremely pleased with at this point. Another issue to discuss is that the Cayman average daily rate is the highest in the region, and that is the update from May of 2016. Having the highest daily rate in the region speaks to capacity, and it basically means that when no rooms are available, prices can go up. The ADR is also extremely important because it means tourism is making a bigger contribution to the economy of the Cayman Islands. It also means that obviously the tax revenue to government is higher. For the period of January through May 2016, the Cayman Island government collected $12.7 million more in tourism taxes, which represented a 2.13% increase over the same period of 2015. High occupancy, which drives the ADR, means more visitors, more spending, more business for restaurants, and more into the attractions in the community. To recap some of the important numbers to give perspective between the year ending 2013 and the year ending 2015, stayover visitation increased by 40,000 people. Cruise visitor arrivals for the same period increased by 341,000, making a combined increase of 381,000 more visitors to our shores. This combined increase added $90 million more to our economy in 2015 than it did in 2013. Focusing on the last year alone, July 2015 to June 2016, total visitor expenditure, which includes air and cruise, was 574 million CI dollars. The knock-on effect of increased visitation obviously means more jobs and opportunities for Caymanians in the tourism sector and all through the country. Our room stock, as we know, is currently 5,502 rooms and is right at maximum capacity. If infrastructure does not keep pace with the growth in arrivals, the investment that we as a country make on the marketing on a global basis will be wasted because we don't have the rooms to sell that we're marketing to try to sell. Existing hotels have expanded and they've refurbished, and the new hotel properties in the pipeline. By 2019, these sizable capital investments will boost our accommodation capacity by over 20% and will provide jobs and growth opportunities for the tourism industry over the short, medium, and long term. Some of these projects include the Kimpton Seafire Resort, the St. James Point, the Ironwood Cayman, which is an Arnold Palmer golf facility, the Health City Hotel, which has just recently been talked about and looking at a date to break ground, Margaritaville Beach Resort, which opens some of their first phase rooms in December of this year, and the proposed 5-star hotel by the Dart Group. As we recall, cruise berthing update that I'd like to bring you today is that in October 2015, the ministry was given a directive by Cabinet to move forward with the next phase of the cruise berthing facility. The FCO was briefed, and a preferred financial model was to be worked on and discussed with the cruise partners. We have awarded a civil engineering design works tender. The tender was awarded to Royal Haskoning DHV. In this tender award, the government will be acquiring the necessary information to speak from an informed position regarding the costs of the overall project. Additionally, this design work will help to mitigate the environmental damage done during construction by having the piers in deeper water. I think that we all were here in the last briefing when we had made a commitment to look at if the piers could actually be put in deeper water, and the Baird report came back and confirmed that it could. So our next step then was to get the civil engineering work to find out what the costs of that would be. And once we have that, it puts us in an informed decision to look at how the financial modeling would actually work with that. Very happy to talk about Owen Roberts International Airport and the redevelopment. I think most people can see that Phase 1 is basically complete. It was completed on time and on budget. Phase 2, which is the $42.5 million part of the renovation, the redevelopment has started, and it is supposed to be or to be completed late second quarter 2018. That includes the expansion of the arrival areas, the departure lounge, and the check-in lobby. So as we drive by, as we go through, we see the bricks and mortar evolving in front of us, and everyone has the ability to check on the progress almost on a daily basis here in Georgetown. So, we also talked about the runway extension, and I'm pleased to say that the runway RFP has now come back. The Cayman Island Airport Authority is currently reviewing the design bid for the extension of the runway, and as they work through that, we can release more information, but at this point it's certainly a fluid work in progress. But I think the point to be made here is that the trigger event of the growth in tourism in the Cayman Islands gave us the ability to look at moving forward with expanding the airport earlier than was originally planned by the business case that was done. And it also gives us great confidence as we see all of the properties that are not only in the pipeline but have broken ground and coming online, that this is going to be a very needed part of our infrastructure to continue to develop our tourism product. We're also extremely pleased to talk about Cayman Airways and acquiring the new fleet of Boeing 737 MAX planes from Air Lease Corp. These planes will be phased in over the next 4 years. The first 800 actually comes in November, and Cal aims to have the entire fleet modernized by 2020. This modernization will give Cal the newest fleet in the region. It also helps facilitate growth in stayover air arrivals as we expand the airport to accommodate more visitors. The modernization is well timed to coincide with the committed new hotels coming on stream in the next 3 to 5 years. And I think again you can see the theme that is coming forward as all of these follow in a chain, and the growth in arrivals, the growth in tourism gives us the ability to grow our infrastructure and grow our product. The operational benefits, the planes will make the fleet more fuel efficient, allowing for longer distances and increased passenger capacity. The planes offer 8% lower operating costs, projected to realize fuel efficiency rates of approximately 18%, while adding 40 seats to each plane. New fleets will give Cal the range to reach major areas in the United States, most of Canada, and will also enable the airline to investigate opportunities in partnership with the Department of Tourism and government at gateways in South America, such as Brazil and Argentina and Chile. So it'll help to sustain the future of tourism in the Cayman Islands by giving us the ability to better connect the world to our small islands. The updated modern fleet will enhance the in-flight experience for our travelers. The new planes will also offer in-flight entertainment, Wi-Fi to passengers, and very much more in line with its global competitors. The better equipped aircraft will enable Cayman Airways to meet the expectations of the flying customers that come to Cayman. Very happy to talk about the success of the Hospitality School of Studies. Earlier this month, 18 students completed their studies. The students ranged in age from 18 to 23, and they all received their participation certificates at the awards and recognition ceremony. All students received exposure to a wide variety of tourism sector and earned the City and Guild Vocational Certificate in Hospitality. Some also earned awards in different disciplines such as reservations, food and beverage, and culinary skills. The academic awards were also issued for Most Improved, Top Academic, and the Minister's Award for the overall Best Student. 15 private sector organizations, a range of sectors, accommodations, retail, water sports, food and beverage, provided practical, hands-on training to the students during their term of study. And we're very pleased to have the success with this, and we all talk about the vocational need in Cayman, but I believe now we have something that we can touch, and we can see the success, we can see the students that have graduated, and we can see them working in the tourism industry as well. It certainly gives our young people the opportunity to gain training and international certification, and it enhances the tourism product itself by having more front-facing Caymanians involved with it, and it develops our young Caymanian students as real ambassadors for Caymankind. Our gold registration is going on now and ends August 14th, and our goal for next year is to increase the enrollment. The upcoming semester will essentially repeat what has proven to be a winning formula for providing theoretical as well as hands-on training in the hospitality field. Looking ahead, this government is very encouraged by the projections and variety of opportunities that lay ahead for the Cayman Islands, particularly over the next few years. We have carefully managed our growth opportunities by striking the right balance between marketing, airlift, room stock, attractions, transport, and managing customer experiences. And we will continue on this path simply because it's working. Total visitor arrivals are up, average daily room rate up, tourism economic contribution up, and the future extremely positive with new investors coming online. The Cayman Islands Department of Tourism is looking at new business development opportunities in the Midwest, the West Coast of the United States, Canada, and Latin America that will address visitation seasonality and bring new customers to our destination. They will continue to work very closely with Cayman Airways and other partners, providing support and direction through research, marketing, and route development. And I would like to say today, big congratulations to the Department of Tourism, the director, for the work that has been done in some of the new research that is available to the business development team. I think that as you see more of the presentation today, you'll see that there are more facts, there are more areas of development that have been made available through their business development team, and it's really a fantastic job that they're doing now and growing our product, which certainly gives us great comfort for the years ahead. The new tourism properties, Kimpton and Margaritaville, are being introduced to market early in order to drive demand ahead of opening. The partnerships, strategies, and policies that we have implemented has not only brought about growth, but more importantly, is ensuring that tourism is growing in the right way. On assuming this office, we carefully laid out our plans for sustainable, effective, and inclusive tourism growth and development. We have kept those commitments and continue to deliver on those promises. Thank you all.
Thank you, Minister. The floor is open for questions at this time.
My first question would be about the beach vendors out there. What is your guys' plan to get them normalized and step in and kind of help those guys do what they are? Because they would tell you that they feel like they are tourism ambassadors and they can't afford to pay these high insurance things under the trade and business law. What's this plan consist of that you guys are coming up with to help regularize them?
I think if you look at what has been done, obviously there was a lot of concern with the growth of our product, as we talked about, almost 400,000 visitors in a year growth. There was opportunity, but there was concern because as people saw customers, they started to provide goods that they would purchase, and we talk about the beach area, that they were there, not licensed and not monitored, so to speak. So it wasn't a true representation of the Caymanian product. We had many complaints about the way the experience at the public beach specifically was unfolding for our visitors. So instead of looking at it one ministry, we looked at it holistically, and the group that was put together, chaired by Dr. Dalton from our ministry, included DCI, police had representation on there. We had Plahi representing parks, which actually holds the responsibility for the public beach itself, and then we had representatives from tourism and from the ministry. So I think holistically, Joe, when you looked at that, that was the best in class that we could do as far as addressing a problem that we had and understanding how we could deal with it in the best way. Because everybody has to win in this. The vendors need to win, the tourists that are having the experience need to win, and obviously the government has a responsibility to create opportunities for the vendors and monitor and manage the expectations of our visitors. So that committee has had quite a few different ways of moving forward in trying to realize that this is not going to be fixed in a 1 or 2 week period, but what we want to do with it is at the end of the day create the experience that we believe is Caymankind. And I want to say that we understand that it's fluid, and to every action there's a reaction. So if you have people from DCI or if you have police that go down and identify an issue, we have been, and I say this meaning the whole committee, has been extremely proactive in trying to not issue the fines. Give time to find out what is the problem. If it is an insurance issue, to let us try to deal together with the insurance issue. If it is a licensing issue, let us try to deal together with the licensing issue. If it is the venue itself, do they need a kiosk? Let us try to understand how we get the kiosks. But if you see, again, this has not unfolded in a way that a task force went down and swept everybody off the beach. This has unfolded in a way of we all have to work together, we have to have a balance, and we have to understand what everybody's job is to try to get this. So that's maybe a little bit of a long answer, but I can only try to say that it's fluid, and every day, every one of the groups identified are working on it.
Here's another one begging for a long answer or a short answer, either or, your call. But this Zika delay in releasing the GMO mosquitoes, how big of this is an impediment for you? Because I know it'd be great to show people that want to come to Cayman that we're doing something proactive to combat the vector that carries all these awful tropical diseases that Midwestern housewives have nightmares about. Is that sticking in your craw that this legal holdup is kind of blocking that proactive message?
I'll ask the Director of Tourism to address that because she deals with it every day.
What we found is Zika is a concern across our region, and we have been proactive to ensure that our tourism partners receive updates on specific Cayman Islands information. I feel that the current situation in the community with the group that has opposed the release has to go through the process. I can't comment on a legal process that's ongoing. What I can say is that we are concerned for the future and the impact of Zika on the Cayman Islands and how that might affect certain groups that travel to the Cayman Islands. We know that we are very attractive to the couples market, and for those that are in the phase of their lives that are having families, this directly impacts that group. So overall, it's our responsibility to ensure that we have very effective communications and offer up the preventative measures and ensure that we work together with the Public Health Department as well as MRCU to ensure that all of the relevant information is available to partners as well as visitors.
Would being able to say something like they are doing this trial, would that be better messaging though? I mean, is that like a weapon that you can't really use now while it's held up? You know, it's a weapon that you can't say, hey, we're really great at taking care of these mosquitoes, but now that's weapon is basically put out of play because of this.
I think the track record of the MRCU is very much proven in that we've come out with a very robust control methodology that includes many streams as it relates to the current situation with the GMO. That's just one aspect of control, not to discount the efforts of MRCU to date in controlling the presence of the Aedes aegypti mosquito in the Cayman Islands. So I would say in all things, there's always hurdles. And I think that, the process will see through for the GMO mosquitoes. Again, we have concerned partners who sell the Cayman Islands. We have concerned visitors who are making potential decisions on their vacations, and we have to provide that information. So I hope that satisfies your query.
Sorry, I've just got a couple of questions. Minister, can you just repeat the details of the RFP regarding the next stage of the court? And can you also give us like a bit more detail about the timeline and that? Because obviously you're only 9 months now from nomination day, when it kind of, you sort of is. So what kind of feelings do you have about the progress that you're going to be able to make as the tourism minister on that project? And the second thing is also, can we get some more details about the runway? You said that RFP was going to tell us whether it was possible. So I'm not quite sure I understand what's going on, so if you could just clarify that a bit for us.
Okay,
That's my question.
Ask me one at a time.
Okay, do you want to do the airport one? Because that's much more of a clarification rather than a question, which was, you said the RFP was out, but if I remember the last time you were here, you guys all said that the process of the RFP was to find out first whether it was viable. So have you found out, in other words, if it is viable yet?
So this is what I said. The Cayman Island Airport Authority is currently reviewing the design, not the construction bid, the design bid, right? So the RFP was to have a civil engineering company look at design of lengthening the runway. Once you know that, then you can find out what the cost would be. Okay? And then once you find out what the cost would be, it fits into your trigger event of when will this take place in our tourism infrastructure modeling.
So they're examining design RFPs
Right.
that are suggesting a design for the runway at the moment.
Correct.
So it's still then at pretty much the same phase as it was last time?
No, absolutely not. No, because before we said we were putting the RFP out. Now where it is the RFP, the group was hired.
The bids are in.
Correct.
So now they'll be the ones to find out whether that ponding and stuff, that was a big concern, whether how that would affect the cost.
Right. But the point is this, what we're doing now had to be done sometime.
Yeah.
So if we hadn't started it now,
Even if you don't go forward, it was something that government needed on the book.
but we're ahead of what we're not losing any time with this at all, because if in the business case it said, we should look at this in 4 years, this would mean 4 years from now we'd still have to go through 6 to 9 months of design and understanding the cost.
And this was talking about extending to the fence only, right? The RFP was to the fence only, not over the road. Wasn't looking at anything beyond that.
Yeah, but it gives us a real idea of what the cost is, and that, again, it's starting to understand what the cost is for this infrastructure, and how, with a trigger event of what we see coming now, and how we're managing the flights to get people here, we know the runway we have. So if we see another investment model coming that says the only way we're going to be able to fill up those rooms is a long haul wide body from Europe, then we're ahead of the curve as far as looking at 9,000 feet or 10,000 feet. Okay. Second question, Wendy?
That was about the progress on the port. I didn't quite catch the name of the company that's been given.
Yeah, if you could spell that, that'd be good.
We actually plan to do a press release, which we'll give you in a separate press release on this, because it was a separate event. But I can spell the name for you. Royal. Royal. Probably didn't have to do that for you, Wendy. HASKONINGDHV.
And when are you putting that release out today?
Probably tomorrow it'll go out.
And they're doing the
They're doing.
review. They're going to be doing the review of the designs for the piers out. So do you have a timeline now on progress on the port?
Well, we expect to get this back the end of the third quarter. This will give us the new costing or estimates that we need, and then that gives us the ability to look at how the port financing model would actually work.
Do you have a financing model in mind? I mean, do you have to go now call to the FCO with to begin negotiations on that?
No, there were a couple different models that are in the business case that PwC had recommended, and we have two. I think there was 4 or 5 in it. There are two that these center around. Once we get these numbers back, it'll give us the opportunity to pick, obviously with PwC's involvement and the consultants' involvement, the best model for us.
This report is going to give you the final cost. It's going to help you.
It's going to help us get a final cost. It's going to give us an estimate of what it would cost. If you remember, the business case had $150 million in where they had looked at the best value for money and had not taken the consideration of the least amount of environmental impact. So where they designed the piers had more environmental impact than if they had done it in deeper water to start with. So we went back, we made a decision as a government to go back and ask if there was, and Beard was the original company that did the design work, we asked them if they could do another study and give us their opinion, their informed opinion on whether the piers could actually be put in deeper water, and if they were put in deeper water, would there be less of an environmental impact. But we didn't limit it to deeper water. We asked them to change the degrees of the piers, but to have a relook at it and taking the value for money out of it and placing that money on the environmental aspect of it, and saying, we want to know, even if it costed more, how much less environmental impact would there be. So that's why we then had, from Beard and from Mott, the confirmation that their professional opinion was that it could be done in deeper water. So that changed the cost, obviously. So for us to know what the new costing would be, we had to get the civil engineering work which is being done now.
Sure,
Once
well,
we,
look, I understand that. I'm
Hold
just
on,
asking.
James, can I continue? Just like, because I've got to go, I'm really sorry, but I've got another appointment at 3, so I forgot. Can you just say that have you had any talks whilst this has been going on with either the FCO or the cruise lines since the last time about the financing models? Have you actually spoken to anybody about it since our last meeting?
no, I would say that we don't know, we don't have the facts to talk about what we believe the finished cost is going to be at this point.
Do you have a number where it's like where your budget ends for this? I mean, because these financing arrangements, I mean, you can only give so much. Is there like a, once it hits 250, it's too expensive, or can you go to 3 million or 300 million?
Well, you know, I've seen people write 300 million, and I don't know where they get 300 million from. What we have always seen and heard and talked about was 150 million, which was in the business case, and we would expect that as they looked into deeper water and the percentage of change, that I give you my personal opinion, I would think the numbers are going to come back somewhere around 190 to 200 million dollars.
Did you have a contingency in the original business case of like, wasn't it like 150 million with a 30 million dollar to cover any overages and stuff was recommended in that report too, right? So that's right in line with that if you use that that contingency money that you had put attached to that, right?
That was within.
It was within?
Do you have any concerns that with the Brexit situation and the whole economic insecurity that the world's facing, and Britain in particular is facing, and obviously by a knock-on effect its territories, that the FCO may now be less favourable towards such an enormous investment project? I know you're saying it's going to be a private partnership, but there's always that element of risk to CIG.
Yeah.
Do you have any concerns that the FCO may now be a bit more strict about what they're going to expect from this? Has it made you think about it a bit more?
If we can talk holistically about what we would expect the FCO to want one of their overseas territories to do, we would expect that they want us to act prudently, to create opportunity, and to make sure what we do as far as being a contingent liability on their part is to the advantage of the country itself, giving opportunity and giving the ability to be as sustainable as we possibly can. And I believe the facts that were put together in the business case, which again was done by best in class, and we followed the procedure that was outlined, gave great comfort that with what is happening in the cruise industry in this area, the Caribbean region, and the growth and the potential of the growth, that we needed to clearly understand that piers were necessary to protect our cruise industry.
But so does this still hinge on cruise ships wanting to be involved in a financial partnership once the final cost estimates are in?
It hinges on no liability to the Caymanian government, to the Caymanian people, to the Cayman Islands. That was the original positioning, that there would be no guarantee given by the government of the Cayman Islands, and that's what it continues to be hinged on.
So that's going to affect presumably your talks with the cruise lines and your ability to come up to form a partnership that wants to build this without those guarantees?
No, I don't think it affects it. That was how it always was, that there was not going to be government guarantees involved.
Have you had an indication from I know you said you haven't had any preliminary indication from the FCO, but from the cruise lines that this is go if it comes in within the right price?
I think a project of this size, there's always very positive dialogue when you're discussing the options for it. And we continue to be very optimistic that if we do what we are supposed to do and gather the best information that we can possibly gather, that not only ourselves but the partners that will be involved in the piers will be able to make the best decision. as you get more information, it allows them to make a more precise and informed decision. The example of that is when you have a quantity surveyor and they do a very good takeoff on what is needed, it gives a contractor the ability to bid with a lot less risk. So I think that what we're doing now, James, in trying to get as much information as possible with the civil engineering group, gives us the opportunity to understand a lot better of who would be interested in partnering this, seeing that there are groups all over this region that are partnering and doing cruise berthing facilities.
Do you expect
So-
the deal to be signed by the next election? When you're talking about, did you say the end of the third quarter for the reports to be back, and then there's presumably fairly complex financial negotiations to take place after that?
We continue to do everything that is prudent when this type of investment is being pursued, in the exact same way that we followed best practice with the airport. And I think the comfort you can see is the example of the airport of what's unfolding now. Something that was talked about for 15 years is now not only unfolding, but it's unfolding on time and on budget, and people are able to see and understand. This is the same procedure that we're following with the piers, and I would say probably being even a little bit more conservative, because of we took the decision to be, again, as prudent as we possibly could by looking at if there was a way to do this with less environmental impact. And we feel comfortable that was the right decision to make, and we go forward like that.
That doesn't really answer the question about timing. Is it something you expect to be able to proceed with before the next election?
We would expect to have this signed before the next election. If we didn't, we wouldn't be working to do it. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I will tell you this, that when you look at everything that we do, we're doing it in a way that it follows the process, and you're not going to get to a point in the process that you have all the information, and because you're 6 months out from an election, the information says that it is something that is needed and should be done for the country, and when we don't sign because of the election. I think that would be a shortcoming from a politician to do that.
You're about to ask something else?
Yeah, I'm just going to do one more because I've still got a minute. Don't waste it. The projects in particular, not so much the Kimpton and the other dark stuff, because that's always been kind of on the table, and Margarita were built as a renovation rather than start from scratch. The other start from scratch, the main ones have been Ironwood and Beach Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you've been talking about them since the day you got elected.
Mm-hmm.
Where 3 years well past that, and neither one has actually broken ground. I know Beach Bay put some chicken spray on the roads or whatever, but they've not sold any lots, and so they're not, there's no investment, there's no money. And the same with Ironwood, other than planning permission's gone in for the golf course and the golf course alone with nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any hope at all that either of those two could actually have construction on this, to either of those sites before you go to the polls?
We feel comfortable that Beach Bay have people on the ground, and they have worked through, again, the process that they said with the land acquisition, with the movement of the road, and they continue to do what they say they're going to do. So we have no reason to believe that they would not continue doing what they say they're going to do, Wendy. The discussions with the Palmer Group, again, they have done what they said they were going to do, which is move forward and get the plans in as quickly as possible for the golf course part of it. And we continue to facilitate them. In the meantime, there's a lot of building going on. There's a lot of other tourism condominiums coming online, and certainly being shown and talked about. When you look at what they're doing right in Georgetown there, Finn. They broke ground there. There's a fence around it when you're driving down to Grand Old House on the right-hand side. There's a condominium complex going up there. So, but things do take time. There's no question with that.
It's just that you start a term saying these projects come online and they're going to be great, and then here you are,
Right,
the clock's
but
ticking down onto the end of the term, and there's no groundbreaking.
but we did a couple things that flow along that. When you look at what we identified was needed, was to reaffirm the confidence in our tourism product itself, and to show the growth that we competed in the regional field with in the global market. So we had to solidify our infrastructure, which had fallen way behind, and the mere fact that our airport is well on its way gives tremendous confidence to investors that want to look at Cayman as an opportunity to invest. So that has been a major accomplishment. If you look at the numbers that come to Cayman because of the marketing that Department of Tourism does, because of the airlift that we have to get us here, because of what happens when you actually get to Cayman and the expectation that you had is met and gives you the ability to want to come back, and we've grown our repeat business from this. So sure, I mean, I wish that I could have told you a year ago that 2 of these had broken ground, but what I'm really happy to tell you is that what we do have here is having the best years they've ever had as far as arrivals and as far as daily rates, and we continue to look at how when we grow our tourism product, we have to grow the opportunity for Caymanians along with it. So we're working on a daily basis to make sure they have scholarships available for them to go to the best universities. We're working with UCCI to make sure education is available there, the hospitality school, and the stakeholders on the island themselves, reaching out to them and making sure that we can get as many Caymanians or more Caymanians that want to be involved. And we have to reach out to try to get them involved.
Are you disappointed at all that there's only, I think it was 2 students that have actually got paying jobs that have graduated from hospitality school so far?
I'm not disappointed from the fact that, we have to realize that in our life cycle, we are changing from a financial model of employment to a tourism opportunity for employment in the Cayman Islands. And if you think back a couple generations ago, everybody wanted to be involved, from the parents to the children, in the financial industry in some way. And now, if you look at what we have been successful in doing in the last couple of years with the hospitality school, and again with the university scholarships that we manage from the Department of Tourism and the ministry, is getting more young people involved and reskilling some of the Caymanians that were in the financial industry and are looking. The point is that you need accountants in tourism, you need HR in tourism, you need all of the skill sets that are used in the financial industry. They plug into the tourism as well. So we're viewing this as the educational experience is an awareness experience for the community. I'm sure that director and chief officer every day have questions from people about the industry itself. So I believe that everybody that has the opportunity to see what's happened in the last couple of years has to be extremely pleased with the growth and the solid footing that tourism is on.
But is that correct? There's only 2 of the students have found paying jobs. In what context is the school a success if that's the case?
I don't know if that's true.
I do know that the placement officer works with the students, so a lot of the time students are either finishing up their coursework, waiting for grades, so we recognize the students for completing the course. They're still wanting to get their hands on that certificate based on their results as well. You've got the certificate from UCCI. You've also got the City and Guilds hospitality certificate. So the placement aspect of things from this particular group has a number of them identified also for higher education. So some of them are forecast to remain on island, to continue on with UCCI and work in a part-time kind of concept. Some of them will take on full-time employment, but we've seen with this second class, a number of them will go on to college to finish their bachelor's. So it's one of those things where, and I'll comment here that we created the program as a 1-year program, 9 months essentially, to skill up for entry-level jobs. The caliber of students that we've received in the last 2 years, a number of them have gone on to higher education off island. It's a good thing they're continuing on with their education, but the primary goal is to fill entry-level jobs. So we're having to balance that, and it's an ongoing discussion with the Hospitality Advisory Council as to the dynamics that are playing out from the academic versus the vocational in getting students in full-time employment. Again, it takes... the reason why we have private sector participating on the board is just that, to ensure that private sector recognizes the School of Hospitality Studies as the standard for the entry-level jobs in hospitality. So it's a work in progress with ensuring that we understand the goals that tourism businesses have in terms of the jobs available and also finding the right fit. I'll use an example of the top student. She studied all 3 disciplines: culinary, food and beverage, and reception. She was able to do that because she was very strong academically. But in her speech, she said, I did all 3 because I wasn't sure what I liked the best, and that helped her choose. So again, just doing a 1-year program and doing a little bit of culinary, reception, and food and beverage, it's also finding the right fit job for that student. So I wouldn't say it's a disappointing figure. The fact that we have 18 students successfully completing the course is a major win. We now have a hospitality school. Didn't have that before. We had...
Sorry, just to clarify, that's, you're talking about the second cohort, which would be just coming up to graduation. What about the first cohort? Do you have statistics for it?
I can follow up with statistics. Yeah.
I got 2 from.
No, the first cohort, that would be incorrect.
All right, that's what I was talking
Yes,
about.
that would be incorrect. I believe the 2 are the initial 2 that have gotten jobs in the second class this summer. That would be correct. And there were a number
First
that
cohort
were...
didn't get any jobs at all.
No. We have statistics. We can forward you on that. It's a higher rate for the first
Yeah, I
cohort.
thought there were like 4 or 5 last time around.
It was higher than that for last year.
But I just,
Well, if you can follow up with those.
Absolutely.
And maybe even say which ones went on to school, because I think it's...
Great. We can get that for you.
Mr. Jackson and the team are also stressing the importance of community support actually within the public and private sector, because a lot of what they were saying is that there's no training opportunities. What is being done with those partnerships? You know, there are a number of people on board. I think they stressed Grand Oak House being one of their major contributors to it, but we're not getting enough, that they have said in terms of the support.
I don't think you ever have enough.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the notes that I have, it says to date, students were placed at 12 different hospitality operations.
Relations. Yeah.
And when you have a total of 18 students that completed, the fact that you had 12 different hospitality businesses they went to, I think that as Wayne's feeling is, as we grow more students, we need more stakeholders involved.
And if I could add to that, there's a lecture series that's an opportunity for the community, particularly professionals in the hospitality field, to come in and make a contribution to the classroom experience and to tell their story and help the students with their grooming. So that is the opportunity to participate and to also leave a mark from a corporate standpoint to allow managers, supervisors, employees to come in and participate with the School of Hospitality Studies. It's an excellent program, and the real life examples is the piece that really brings together the tourism businesses as well as the school, and introduces students to companies that they may not have considered before. So I would say the participation of the visiting lecture series as a part of the program is excellent for tourism businesses.
How often does that happen?
I believe there's a section of their curriculum that's a weekly speaking engagement. We can confirm that with Wayne Jackson, but they do weekly hospitality topics. Yeah.
Can I just ask about the tourism figures before we go? You're showing a decrease for the first time in quite a while in the air arrivals for the first 6 months. What do you attribute that to?
Zika. No, serious.
A warm winter,
Yeah.
Yeah.
a warm North American winter, a number of global terrorist attacks that has travel safety at risk. So those would be the top three. Yeah.
Where,
Well,
where
Max
in-
said
Where are those
capacity
again?
would
Wait,
explain
yeah,
it
what-
leveling off, it wouldn't explain it decreasing.
Well, but when you have growth over 2 years, you have growth of 7%, then 11%. Then you're going to see that rooms are not available. And when we're still at what, negative 0.41. I don't know if I mean that's pretty small decrease.
Sure, but I mean it's been an upward trend up until now, and it's starting to drop a little bit. And particularly if we're saying that the tipping point has arrived where you're making decisions on the airport and other things, is there any concern that this may be a long-term trend of leveling off? Because you obviously need the increases to keep coming if it's going to be...
So let me explain it to you. Here's the deal. You have a product that you sell for $1. You have a certain demand for that product at $1, right? And you sell out in a hurry. So you decide that I'm going to move back and forth to see how I can maximize my revenue out of what I have. So you tweak and you push your price up, which we have done. And the proof is there that we have increased our room rate. Now, if we had left our room rate at the same price, I wonder what would have happened. If we'd put the room rate a little bit higher, I wonder what would have happened. But I think that the fact that they're almost getting the same number of people that they did the year before, but they're getting an extra 3.5%, shows that their yield management model is extremely sophisticated, that they maximize revenue out of the asset they had.
And if you look at the tourism performance, there's some specific areas that are impacted with visitation. Canada predominantly, and we know that the Canadian economy has been impacted by the oil industry. That is down significantly. And areas across Europe are also down, in addition to some regional travel, and that also indicates some of our sporting activities, sports tourism activity. So if we were to isolate the top performer in the last 6 months, it would be the United States, which is our primary source market. And it is the positive, yes. It's still up. And as the minister alluded to, our barometer is tourism revenue. So what we collect through Hotel Licensing Board for new properties, timeshare tax, and tourism accommodations tax. And we've seen an increase in tax collections in the 6-month period. So whilst the numbers might be down, you'll leave today with a full report of some measures that don't just give you the number of bodies, but it gives you the overall scope as to tourism performance. And we hope that that will be beneficial to you, that we don't just count bodies, but the economic impact comes in various ways. It comes with length of stay, it comes with number of persons traveling, how much they spend. So whilst we've always used visitation as the main metric, we're hoping today, when we provide you with the half-year report for 2016, that you'll see a number of indicators that gives I would say, a more comprehensive view of tourism overall.
I want to say, and again, think about, we have the exact same number of rooms, some actually being renovated, we have 2 or 3 less. Compare this time period to November, when the Kimpton actually opens with 300 more rooms. What do you think our November numbers are going to look like year over year because of having 300 more rooms? I would say that that's going to reflect right at a higher percentage of arrivals than
So that
the
kind of
previous
answers
year.
My next question is whether you expect the trend to continue. Do you think from November we'll start to see that downward trend, the graph go back up again?
Well, when you see the numbers, you're going to see that June was higher than last year. Our June is a better June than we had the previous year. We suffered through April and May, and were the 2
Tough months.
that we got hit with. Think about what happened in April and May. Zika was blaring through every tourism destination, and every Liberty travel agent in the Northeast United States and other places were looking. Warm weather. Again, I go back to being very lucky to have extremely good stakeholders looking at opportunity, and what took place. It takes just such a little bit to change 1% in a 6-month period, that from a stayover standpoint, the 1% less people with a 3.5% higher spend translates to what we're trying to do. Less burden on the infrastructure, more money for the people.
And the spending's being calculated through the hotel room.
So I think now is a good time for us to distribute the report, because performance is heavily being discussed at this time. And just to point out some of the key facts, we talked about June being up 5%, with a total of 34,000 visitors, with the U.S. seeing 8% increase in visitation. The destination had a total of 490 air visitors for the first half of 2016. The Cayman Islands government revenue for January through the May period saw a 2.13% increase, resulting in a $12.7 million figure being collected. And we talked about the quality of the visitor and their impact. The main purpose of travel to our shores is largely recreational and leisure. The average length of stay for visitors and time spent in the destination is recorded at 6.02 days. When asked to rate their overall experience on the islands, 99.2% of respondents to the Department of Tourism survey stated it was very good or good, and 45.07% perceive the Cayman Islands as being much better when compared to competing destinations visited in the last 3 years. Of those surveyed, 96.5% said they plan to return to the Cayman Islands by air. There are currently 500 properties licensed to operate in the Cayman Islands, with a maximum capacity of 15,842 persons. That's 5,502 bedrooms with 8,058 available beds. The total Cayman Islands visitor expenditure for the time period of July 2015 through June 2016, as previously stated, was $574 million. And this figure is for both air and cruise visitors expenditure. So in your handouts today, you'll have the top highlights of the half-year report. You'll also have a press release on the accolades achieved by the destination, and you also have, for the first time since 2010, a research report that gives you a comprehensive view of our performance. And I'll note that we do have some air and cruise combined numbers, but this is specifically for air stayover visitors, and we plan to release a full cruise visitor survey as well. So James, I hope that provides you with a little bit more information.
How you calculate the expenditure numbers?
Yes, there are formulas and there's rationale for how we arrive at the figures, and it's in the forward pages, so it's earlier on in the document. Any other questions at this time? I'm gonna do a count back. Going once, going twice. Ah.
Wait, Wendy's texting me now.
The overall experience, these are surveys, where they issue, where exactly do they fill these,
So it'd be best for you to note that in a lot of the pictorials throughout the half-year report, you should reference if it's visitor arrival information, which is garnered from the embarkation, disembarkation card, which are actual figures for 2015, or if it's exit survey data, which is a survey that we administer at the airport and the cruise port. We have staff that do daily surveys for departing passengers, and that's based on a sample size on an annual basis. So if you require more information on the methodology, we also explain our methodology for both. So it's a combined presentation of both data sets. Yeah? Good.
Cool.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate your time.